Panther people, what up? This season needs to end yesterday. Panthers posted Phil Perkins. Thanks for joining. Quick recap of the game. Panthers lose. Surprise, surprise. 28-6. Is it? I always go back to it, but is it bad that I longed for the Matt Rule years? Yeah, he talked like a crazy person, but there were some wins put in there. This is just brutal. Like you got Jim Caldwell basically as a pseudo offensive coordinator with Thomas Brown, who we're going to talk about a little bit later. It's like they find new ways to make you sad. And I'm a Blue Jays fan, guys. I'm a Blue Jays fan. I know sad right now. Nobody knows sad like Blue Jay fans in the last 24, 48 hours. They somehow made me equally as sad. Every weekend, there's something with the Panthers where the only really thing that gets me all jacked up is now when our 5'10", 190-pound quarterback scrambles. And scrambles really well, by the way. Guy's got great vision. He could be a running back in the future if he adds like 50 pounds. But they just find new ways to embarrass you and new ways to just realize, like, man, this is just not it. It doesn't matter who's calling plays. Doesn't matter who the head coach is. This was the first game, and I'm going to preface it by the surrounding suck. This was the first game where I actually thought, like, whoa. Today was just like, man, there are some throws, there are some reads this guy had where it was just like, are you that ultimate processor? Are you Professor X, as I called him during the preseason? Are you the guy? Today was the first time I wondered, are you the guy? Dude, there was that clear miss. He had Jonathan Mingo, who, if he threw it to him on point, which he normally does. We've seen the charts. When throwing to an open wide receiver, Bryce Young is more accurate than any other quarterback in the league. The only thing is he doesn't throw to a lot of open wide receivers because they just don't get open. But in this moment, whether it's a system or not, Jonathan Mingo did get open. And it actually would have ended up with a touchdown heading into halftime. That didn't happen. He was way off by like 6 or 7 yards, and that was brutal. He had his worst statistical game ever, but it's not all on him. So I'm moving on from that, moving on from thinking that Bryce is a bust. I don't think he is. It's just for the first time ever that they really started creeping into my head. But his wide receivers just can't catch. I just remember specifically Steven Sullivan had a linebacker on him, but Bryce literally threaded the needle, threaded the ball right here. Like the slow-mo shot, like right there. And all you have to do is, and then it's a reception. DJ Chark, wow, that guy should be a DB. Like, the hands are invincible. Sorry, I was watching Invincible. They're invisible. Where are they at? They're just crucial drops for him. And then when he does make a catch while in stride, he falls down. So not great. DJ Chark, 26 yards receiving, targeted 4 times, only caught 2 passes. Obviously, Adam Thielen, a little bit of a bounce back game for him, 74 yards receiving. Jonathan Mingo could have had more. He had 1 catch for 18 yards, and then he had his second catch for 4 yards more than that. But could have been more if it wasn't for that miss from Bryce Young. But this showed me more than anything that this is not an NFL wide receiver room. Yes, Chuba Hubbard had a good game, 87 yards rushing for him, but still, too many times. Like he and Miles Sanders think way too much. Miles Sanders, 74 yards rushing for him. Arguably his best game. We rushed over 200 yards as a team. But still, just the way they run just pisses me off. Like, it's not, like, there are moments with Chuba Hubbard as well, but then there are moments he gets absolutely blown up because he still runs really high. But the skill position players, everybody on skill position, including the running backs, that it's just not good enough. Raheem Blackshear, who I have been vouching for since the preseason, on a 4th and 1 call, why we're passing, we're going to get to that. He slips while making his break. He slips. It was the right read. If he just it even hit him in the gut while he was on the ground. He just had to hold on to it, and he didn't. And it's just despicable. The offensive skill position players that have been put around Bryce. It literally is Scott. Like, what is Scott Fitterer doing? Is he doing anything? Because the guys that the Panthers picked up are literally what David Tepper suggested in that press conference when he inserted himself into this post first overall pick draft conference call, saying that, Bryce Young is a distributor. He doesn't need elite wide receivers. It's almost like he told that to Scott Fitterer, like, hey, you don't need to get these top guys. Just get these C+ guys, and then Bryce will make it happen because he's amazing. He's a whiz kid. You should have seen him at the steak restaurant. He's amazing. And so we're looking at that now. Look at CJ Stroud today. He's in concussion protocol. I hope he's okay because that looked brutal. Just him wincing in pain on the field. Nobody ever wants to see that. But aside from that, look at his stats today. This is a no doubter. Offensive rookie of the year in C.J. Stroud. Potentially, well, they are going to the playoffs. They're on the hunt for the playoffs as the Houston Texans. But he was up against Zach Wilson, New York Jets. They got beat up. Why did they get beat up? There was no offense with the Houston Texans. They were out of Tank Dell, who was out with an ankle injury, and then Nico Collins was out early in the game. So his two top wide receivers. So he had zero weapons. I think Brevin Jordan was his number one receiving target. And what happened? He passed for like 85 yards before he was out with the concussion. Why was he out for a concussion? Because he's probably trying to make plays happen, waiting for guys to get open, guys who aren't premier talent like a Tank Dell, who is surprising everybody and gaining separation. Nico Collins, who is a veteran-ish wide receiver, they weren't at his disposal. He now knew what it was like to beat Bryce Young for a couple quarters. Bryce Young has been doing this for a season, and somehow, knock on wood, Bryce Young has only missed one game, and I don't even think that was a real injury. Somehow, Bryce Young is outlasting Anthony Richardson, who's Cam Newton 2.0, size-wise, and C.J. Stroud with a concussion. You're not going to rush that guy. There's absolutely no point to rush him. So he is outlasting both of those guys. Will Levis didn't even start the season. Somehow the guy who's 5'10", 190, 185 is outlasting these guys physically. Mentally, I don't know how he's going to do. Thomas Brown, what the hell, man? Any short game, this short game. You have Derek Brown, who has more receptions than some of the wide receivers. He could have been a short yardage back. Just passing on short on fourth and short, third and short. Why are we passing? Why are we doing rush for 200 yards, over 200 yards? What the hell are we doing? And so that is brutal. And speaking of that, someone was mentioning, someone's got to fire everybody, yada yada yada. And Thomas Brown's wife. I think it's Thomas Brown's wife. It's a day of misinformation, everybody. So someone tweeted this out saying, if we're keeping it buck, Thomas Brown should be fired tomorrow with the way he's calling plays. Jessica A. Brown, presumably his spouse, saying, we are fired. 3 exclamation marks. We just had to stay behind because someone has to call plays. If you guys know someone else to do the next 4 weeks, give Tepper a holler as if this is fun, F-U-N in all caps, for us. Now, I don't know if this is a figure of speech that they're all lame duck head coaches, or lame duck coaches, no matter what, they're all fired, or they were literally told, you're fired, but you have to stay. That's weird. I think if you're fired, you're fired. And like, if he's fired, Jim Caldwell can call plays. He's an offensive guy. He can do it. Their QB coach, he can call plays. Why not? He was the pass game coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts. Why not? I don't know if it's a figure of speech. I don't know if we're kind of getting lost in translation here, if it's semantics here. Like, are they fired, or is she kind of predicting that you're going to be fired, which they should? The only person who maybe has an opportunity to stay is a Jero Evero for what he's doing with the defense. Amazing stuff. Derek Brown having a renaissance year right now, having a breakout year for him. Frankie Louvu playing great with his defense. Freaking Troy Hill, like a backup to the backup to the backup. I think he's doing absolutely great. Xavier Woods is doing awesome. J.C. Horn is back. Like, this defense is making things work now that everybody's like J.C. Horn's back. Jeremy Chin's back. Brian Burns is doing things. Like, everyone's back. And Jero Evero, while defensive head coaches might not be too hot right now in the NFL coaching cycle, he deserves a head coaching nod more than anybody on this team. I think Thomas Brown may have just been, it's just too soon for him, maybe a little bit too soon. Maybe go back to LA and just get back and figure things out in the lab. Maybe he gets to call plays there a little bit more and get some actual success, some positive feedback there. But the most logical guy to be a head coach with this team is a Jero Evero for what he is doing. But would he want to do this, or maybe want to use it as a parlay to an actual head coaching job? But honestly, if I was the team right now, anybody else is like, do we want to really do this? But I think he makes the most sense, not to be the head coach, but out of anybody around, to be the head coach. A part of me saw the highlights that Derek Brown is putting together this year, and you could use that to parlay or whatever, or to flip it for a first-round pick. And then, you kind of realign everybody with the Bryce Young timeline right now. because like the defense was doing all right when guys were hurt. They were keeping games close when key guys like Brian Burns and Frank and J.C. Horn and Jeremy Chin were out. Shaq Thompson has been out the entire year. They were keeping them in check with backups, and it's the offense that is letting them down. So if you need to lose a star defender, whether it's Derek Brown or Brian Burns, to bolster this offense, whether it's a breakout wide receiver, whether it's breakout wide receiver coupled with a capable tight end and a guard or a center or whatever, a proper left tackle in free agency, because Ike Kwan, I almost forgot. A lot of those scores are just when it's to the point where the defense just cannot hold it anymore, and it just eventually breaks because the offense is so inept. So if it means, and it's not just me saying this as well, Daniel Jeremiah from Move the Sticks, he talked about how everything this offseason is going to be geared towards Bryce Young and making him better and not screwing him up forever, because it's clear that David Tepper loves him. And if it means getting rid of Brian Burns, signing and trading, and if it means getting rid of Derek Brown, who's probably a more enticing piece, and if that's you get the same kind of deal that you got offered for Brian Burns, two first round picks and then some others, or one first round pick and a second, so you have 2 second round picks and a first. I mean, you got to have to make that happen to bolster this offense, because we have seen with the Ejiro Evero defense, I don't know if he's going to stick around, but with the pieces that are here, you can make things happen. And you saw Shy Tuttle play pretty well as well. I'm not saying Derek Brown could be replaced, but the offense can't get anything done. And if they can't get anything done, the defense gets absolutely gassed continuously being out there on the field. So the offense need these long, sustained drives. They need to get some points on the board. You got to outscore these teams, because the defense is doing its job of keeping things tight. It's just up to the offense. And this entire offseason is going to be geared towards Bryce Young. Let me know what you guys think. That's that much of the game. Just letting my feelings go. No edits here. Let me know what you guys think, and talk to you guys next week.